All right, guys, we're going to talk about some old people tonight. Not just any old people. We're going to talk about old running backs. Austin Eckler or Miles Sanders and a 24 first.
24 first and Miles Sanders.
Package.
Pretty easy, huh?
Not even a doubt about it. I mean, their
Smash
production.
accept.
Miles Sanders is a running back one. That's a free first, bro.
Dalvin Cook or David Montgomery and a 24 first.
Package.
Clay. Yeah, package. Every single one of these types of deals where you're throwing in a 24 first and you're still giving me a running back I can start.
Yeah, these are too good of running backs. Like, come at me something confusing. Like, hey, Shane, do you want Khalil Herbert in the 24 first for Austin Eckler? Then I'll be like, ooh.
Ezekiel Elliott or a 2023 second projected early.
Pick.
See, I'm kind of biased because I just watched Zeke run all over the Eagles' porous run defense. So he looked good, but I know that's a mirage. So let me take the pick.
Yeah, you know how many targets Ezekiel Elliott has this year?
6.
Close. 8.
Nice.
I mean, that's not getting it done. So I think the idea there is I literally take the second for Zeke, and then I potentially could break that second into like a later second and a third, and then I can literally buy like the Mike Boones or the Deion Jacksons to try to get by. And
Yeah.
Is Zeke Elliott giving you 10 points per game this year? That's smashing. You know, I can't find that in weekly trades. So, yeah, that's how far down a guy like Zeke is.
Joe Mixon and a 23 second or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I will say this. Of running backs that I do want to buy, of the elderly persuasion, Joseph Mixon is one of them because his peripherals are bananas, and he's going to put up some crazy weeks pretty soon.
Josh Jacobs or a 23 second projected early and a 24 second.
Picks.
This is a contending team. I'm going to take Jacobs. I'm going to take Jacobs here.
Can I go buy a running back that's not coming off a big game for one of those seconds? Like,
well, here's the thing, though.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Jacobs. His production's been, or at least his usage has been consistent, and his snap share has been consistent this year. There's no fear of a running back by committee, even though Josh McDaniels told us there was going to be one, and he did tell me that they signed James White of the West. But that apparently did not come to fruition because I haven't seen Amir Abdullah in several months, so he might be in the missing person pile. Like Josh Jacobs, he's another one of those, like, if I'm buying him an old guy, I want him cheap, and I think he's cheap and productive enough. At least the peripherals tell me he'll be productive enough.
Derrick Henry or 24 first.
24 first.
Yeah, I'll take the pick.
Just taking the pick just to get out. So even if you're contending, you'd sell him for a 24 first?
Yes, but again, it also probably, like, there's context with these deals too. Like, I think the most important thing that we're not really talking about here, because if you ask Shane and I 100 of these trades, you're going to find that most of them we're going to go, ooh, give me the process, give me the pick, give me the player, give me the 2-for-1. Most of the time we're going, let me upgrade. Here, if you're splitting my running back into 2 assets and you're still giving me a usable running back, I'm pretty much always going to take the 2 side versus the 1 side. The caveat is, am I in a league? We're in a lot of leagues like this where every damn week you can buy running backs. Now, you may not want to pay for them. You may not want to buy into the Eno Benjamin for a second or Jamal Williams for a second or that type, but they're there. You can get them. If you ever have a pressing need, you can probably go find a running back. Like a lot of the leagues we're in, people are not hanging over your head going, oh, hey, I'm in 15th place. I have Joe Mixon. I'm willing to sell him. Now, I bet you we all look at the prices on those and go, that's interesting. I might at least inquire. We're not sending a 23 first for him, but at least they're available. People are putting running backs on the block. So if it's one of those leagues, I'm okay being the one that kind of sells in a place where I don't have the need, where I have maybe an extra guy that I can start this week. So I think that's a caveat. If you're in one of these dead leagues where, like, Shane and I get roster reviews and they're like, yeah, nobody trades. Well, I'm not just going to go sell all my running backs if I'm contending, because then there's no guarantee that anyone will ever trade another one to me. I'm kind of just stuck. Like, if I have Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon, they better stay healthy and they better smash, because no one will trade me another one. So I think you do have to look at the running back market. How active is it? If it's inactive, I'm going to hold these guys more if I'm contending. So it really is just a caveat.
If you're enjoying this content, would you mind looking down and hitting that little thumbs up button? Give us a like. That's the easiest way to help our channel. Appreciate that. Middle of the road team, and let's say you're kind of leaning more going the rebuild route. You've got Joe Mixon on your team. You're not the biggest fan of him. You understand he's getting elderly as far as running backs are concerned. How are you trying to sell him? What are you looking to do? Are you trying to do a process trade where you get a usable running back and a first if possible? Just talk to me about that.
So if I'm trading a running back, I think I've talked about this before. I'm generally that means I'm probably not competing that year, right? So obviously I don't need the running back. I'm looking for a wide receiver. I'm just trying to get out for a wide receiver. Mixon, I'm looking at guys like, all right, can I get him for some of our favorite guys that aren't playing right now? Treylon Burks, Jameson Williams, Drake London, Chris Olave, all those guys are out the window. That's not going to happen. So it'd have to be a wide receiver like that, Jahan Dotson and Sky Moore. I'm never going to give up on Sky Moore, and I'll just have to have him thrown in the trade. Or just straight up picks, 24 picks. No one's going to give you, not many people are going to give you 23 picks, not for Joe Mixon. Even though, like I said, his peripherals are good. So if you're looking to buy an old running back, you should be buying him. This guy like Saquon Barkley, who's old and smashing, someone will give you a 23 first. Like I've seen that already.
What about Mixon or Michael Pittman? Would that be a pivot you do? Take Michael Pittman instead of Mixon?
I'd be okay with that. Yep.
Scott, what are your thoughts on how would I sell Mixon if I wanted to?
A key part of your question that I think is important is if you're one of these middling teams. And middling, I mean, if like you're in the playoffs right now, but you're clearly maybe a step behind the top teams, that's the perfect place to try to split these assets. That's the perfect place to say, give me the 2-for-1. Problem is it can't, if you're getting too caught up in what a player could be or what they're doing right now not being sustainable. I mean, the running back position is a week-to-week game. So I know we talked earlier about Josh Jacobs. Like Josh Jacobs is like RB4 on the season or RB5 on the season. But here's the thing. I don't care what Josh Jacobs has done this season because he's just as fragile coming up this next week than he was the first 6 weeks. I almost feel like I've escaped the inevitable for the first 6 weeks, but it's not like he's just going to be guaranteed to score 20 points a game the rest of the year. And I think that that's clear by the fact that like he's not going anywhere close to what like Saquon Barkley goes for, even though he's pretty much scoring very close to the same amount of points per game. So I think if you're stuck with a guy like Josh Jacobs and you have a team that's in 4th place, that's the perfect player to go, okay, who can I go down to that still essentially occupies that same spot that Josh Jacobs does on my team? So think of Miles Sanders maybe, or Devin Singletary, someone like that. Like that's just the process deal. Can I get Miles Sanders in a second for Josh Jacobs? Can I get Devin Singletary in a second and a third for Josh Jacobs? And then you literally just stick the other guy in your lineup. And you kind of hope that he can bridge the gap between what Jacobs has done or what he does the rest of the way, but you get that free pick. And the idea is the free pick is basically like buying an insurance policy, right? The guy you just traded for goes down or becomes ineffective. You have the extra second or second and third to go buy another running back. And that goes back to like, do you have the active market? If you don't, then you might as well just try to get the best player. But I think for the most part in a lot of our leagues, like the running back market's pretty robust. There's always teams willing to trade running backs. Me included. On my contending teams, I'll pivot off of running backs. Like if you're willing to give me Devin Singletary plus for Joe Mixon, sure, I'll do it. Because really that's just me saying Joe Mixon's doing nothing except for occupying more dynasty value on my roster given what he's producing. Maybe that's where I differ with Shane. I don't care if I'm contending or not. If I can split these running backs and give me multiple shots within a certain tier, like I don't want to tier down to where I'm tiering from Josh Jacobs all the way down to like the Chase Edmonds range, because that's outside of even usable range. But if I'm just getting like usable range where I can say, hey, any given week, this guy's a top 20 to 30 running back, sure, that's fine. I'll split and get as many of those guys as I can and try to win that way.
Even in leagues like me and you are in, I don't think you can pull a lot of those trades off, though, is the problem.
Doesn't that speak to the running back market, though? Like, if people are not even willing to split assets, because that just basically says, I don't care which running back I have. Just give me one that's in this big, broad range, and I'll just flip a coin that maybe he outproduces your guy.
Yeah. And this is where, and look, I hate running backs. They're stupid. Everyone knows that. But this is one of the times during the year where a guy, like I said, I'll buy low on a guy, on a Mixon, on a Josh Jacobs, on, God help me, Miles Sanders at this point. Although I don't have to because I have him in so many of my leagues. Not because I believed in him, only because I couldn't trade him. But I'll buy on guys like that. And knowing that it's, you know what, this is a 1-year window. Because I think we talked about this doing a roster review. Age means a lot less to us at running back than other positions, even quarterback, to be frank, because all it takes is one injury and a running back's value, their career is completely altered. Look at Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, right? like their dynasty value is trashed. Cam Akers is dynasty production and value is so trash that he doesn't even want to be in Los Angeles anymore. Like he's just like, get me out of here. Trade me to the Dallas Renegades.
Even Swift too. I mean,
Swift,
he's constantly like a little bit banged up. He hasn't had like a critical injury yet, but I mean, he's got that stink because he's always banged up.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Jonathan Taylor misses 2 games, and you got people literally saying he's not a top 2 running back anymore.
I know.
And but you know what? I look at him and go, like, all it took is a hot start from Breece Hall and a couple missed games from Taylor, and then the prospects of Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson coming in, and Jonathan Taylor is yesterday's news. To the point where if you have Jonathan Taylor, you still look at him like, okay, he's RB1. If someone says I'm selling Jonathan Taylor, you're going, he ain't a top 3 running back. Why would I give you the prospect of like Bijan Robinson plus for him? Like, that's insane, you know? So there isn't a market for him. The guy that has him won't trade him because he sees RB1. When you put him on the block, the person's going, I'm not giving you multiple first. No way.
You see Jonathan Taylor on your team, and what you see as a corresponding trade is I want Jamar Chase. And the dude that has Jamar Chase is like, you're out of your goddamn mind. There's not any chance in the world I would do a deal like that. I might give you T. Higgins if I'm feeling especially generous that day. But you know what? You can try to play on people's fears too, that the running back market is, what's the word? Speculative? That's not a good word for it, but whatever. That the running back market is volatile like that. That they know, like, look, today you might be able to get T. Higgins for Jonathan Taylor. Like literally in 6 months, you might not be able to get a first for him. And now obviously things would have to go tremendously wrong. Like you'd have to blow an ACL or something. If T. Higgins was to tear his ACL, his value would drop by what, like 3 or 4? Like he'd drop from like the wide receiver 6 to 9.
It's not crippling. Yeah,
right, right.
A question that we get a lot, though, is Derrick Henry, for example. What can I realistically sell him for?
Price that comes to your mind of what you think you can get for him, 95% of the time is way out of the league in terms of what someone would actually pay. And this whole discussion, I think, leads back to one point that Shane and I make on roster reviews constantly, is running backs are becoming, first of all, go back to listen to that first Destination Devy or Destination Dynasty show that I did, and I talked about this. The running backs are just becoming all bunched together, kind of in like this, not average range, but the high-end guys are coming down. A lot of other guys are going towards the middle, and it's becoming a week-to-week game, which means it's becoming like a season-to-season game. So like people will submit us roster reviews, and they have Dameon Pierce and Ken Walker and Rashad White. And we're like, if you're not contending now, trade those guys. And I think a lot of people look at it and they go, I'm set up next year because I got Dameon Pierce and Ken Walker. And you're like, well, maybe. But we might get to next year and all the names are different. And some of the like RB2s that you prefer are different guys. And so you might be looking at a team that has Dameon Pierce and Ramondre Stevenson. You think you're going to smash next year until you get to next year and you realize, oh, those guys are just Jags. They're just guys. And there's other ones that people got cheaper that they might have been able to do 2-for-1s or pivot downs. And now they have a better running back room than you do. So I think it's like running backs are year to year. So if you're not winning right now, you could almost say, if you're talking Derrick Henry, get whatever you can. Just get them all off my team. Period. I can rebuild a running back room in a year, 2 years at most, but I really don't even want to focus on 2 years out. So I think that's the biggest thing, is it's probably way more cost prohibitive for you to hold on to them. And what you think you should get for Joe Mixon or Ezekiel Elliott or Derrick Henry, almost all the times I've ever tried to trade those guys, it's, you know what? If I'm a quasi contender, I'm probably better off just keeping them. If I'm out of it, then take whatever you can get. 2 seconds. What's the big deal? You know, it's a great deal for somebody else, but what are you gaining by holding on to them?
Did you do like Derrick Henry for Brian Robinson in a 23-second? Would that be enough to just get Henry off your team? That works.
Can you flip Brian Robinson for a second?
Exactly. Yeah, then you're basically turning Henry into a couple seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, there's a law of diminishing return somewhere, and I don't know if Brian Robinson in a second is it for every team, where you got to look at your roster and you got to go, am I willing to just let this particular asset, and it's mostly a running back, am I willing to let this particular asset just rot into dust and never get anything but production out of it? And you have to weigh that, and no one can help you with that except you and your God. If I got a chance to win a title, yes, maybe I'll go overpay for Joe Mixon, and I'll hate myself tomorrow when he tears an ACL. Generally, I try to go cheap, but I understand people that want to pay for it because you are going against the grain too when you do that.
If you're on the selling side, you have to be willing to say, all right, I am 1-5. I have no purpose for Derrick Henry on my team. I want to sell him, but I'm looking for a specific type of process in terms of what I'm getting out of this trade. If you're not going to pay it, I'm not just going to give him away because I'm okay eating the sunk cost of having him on my roster for another year. Because the thing is, we're talking old running backs. There's going to be a couple of these guys we've mentioned, Mixon, Henry, Dalvin Cook. They're going to survive into next year, and they're going to be placeholder RB2s, guys that can get spot starts. Like, wouldn't be shocking if some of these guys that are so good from 2017 and 2016 that they are the next Melvin Gordon or Mark Ingram, where somehow they're still playing in like 2025 or 2026. Now, they're going to have no value. Their only value from now until whenever they retire is, are they on my roster? Can I play them? There's never a let me flip them. Maybe there's that random window where someone will give me a second for one of those guys, but that's it. But you got to be willing to hold them and go, okay, I'm at least going to set the floor of where my price is. And if no one's willing to hit it, then I keep them. And I think that's what you have to be as a seller. But I think if you're the aggressive seller going, oh, I need a first for Derrick Henry, like you're just going to get a bunch of like middle fingers from your league. They're not going to pay that. I've made trades with people where I go, all right, man, I really don't want to do this deal, but I'm going to do it because builds a little rapport with other people in my league. You know, I'm kind of willing to help Clay out when I know he needs it. We're not colluding, but I'm willing to make like a square deal with Clay when he needs it. Because I think maybe in the future it'll come back and be in my favor in the same way. So I know Shane and I have made a lot of trades like that where, hey, Shane, it fits your construction. It fits my construction. Neither of us like really love the deal, but we're just going to do it. But Shane and I are easy to trade with each other. When it fits both of us, we can make moves.
Trading old for old, but still being able to pick up an extra piece. So you trade like Derrick Henry for DeAndre Hopkins and a second. What about that move? You're getting an extra little piece that you can play with. You're staying old, but what are your thoughts on that, Shane?
I mean, I'll say it makes an extra move that you have to make now, but I don't think that's essentially probably getting like two seconds for Derrick Henry. Now you got to go probably flip DeAndre Hopkins either when he has a good game or before he has one. But I don't hate it. If that's the best you can do and you just are going to walk away if you don't get that single deal done, I mean, you're kind of getting close to the same value. I don't know about Shane's thoughts.
I could do that. And the reason I'm fine with that is because wide receivers are easier to move than running backs. Like a 30-year-old wide receiver, I can still convince someone to come get, as opposed to a 30-year-old running back. Like no one's going to give me anything for him, no matter what he does.
Christian McCaffrey, are you paying a late 23 first to get a championship this year?
I would do it. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're selling CMC, what's the first thing you would do? Spam for a 23 first? And if that doesn't work, then switch to plan B, either doing a process trade with a 24 first or a young wide receiver?
You ever seen those little like motorbikes where the person is riding and then they're carrying like their kid off to the side? That's how I've used some Dynasty trades. Like I always want to have the little tag along piece next to me. So I'm always going to ask for, can I get the first plus?
This sounds like child abuse. I'm sorry. These people
I
are dragging kids along the street.
I can't wait to edit this part. I can't wait.
You ever seen the motorcycles where they have like the cops that have the two cops on the motorcycle? Or It's exactly the same thing. Just picture it in your head where you go, that looks weird, but you're not just getting the motorcycle, you're getting the tag along piece, you're getting the passenger seat. Give me the extra piece. If I can get the first plus something else that I can flip, whether that's a running back, whether that's another asset, that's what I'm targeting. Like, cause really, it's all back to the leverage, right? You're not getting any leverage if it's a 1-for-1. I'd prefer a pick, but that's what I'm always asking for. But sometimes it's like, I'm just giving you, it's 1-for-1, you know? I'd actually rather buy the 1-for-1 deals. I'd be on the buyer. Like where I get uncomfortable is I want to buy McCaffrey. I offer a late 23 first. They counter and they want my Devin Singletary and my 23 first. That's how you get me into the uncomfortable range if you counter me.
I still want the pick. The pick's more fungible than the player. Look, when we're talking about selling old running backs, anytime I can get a first for him, they're probably gone. even on a contender. So that's where me and Scott are the same, where I'm just going to be like, oh, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. And then I'm probably going to try to use this first later in the season to get a running back at the end of the year. But that actually does make sense when you do it that way too. That's like 3D chess. We'll cover that in another show.